we flew over and it was snowing like crazy. And the snowplow, when we got off of the plane, I told the pilot, let's go home.
Let's go. Yeah.
You know, Shanair is so good that they wouldn't bill us for it. Because they said that he should have never flown over there.
He should have known.
You ready?
Hey, we missed you, Mel. What happened?
Oh, it's back there.
No, we missed you.
Oh my God.
No,
Yeah.
we really missed you. No.
Yeah, I changed my mind again. I told Thelma that. No matter what happens, no matter what I say after this, I can't make it. Okay. Anyway, welcome. It's past 9 o'clock. Welcome to the October 28th Planning Commission. And let's have roll call, please.
Gong,
Here.
Bailey's,
Here.
Elliott,
Here.
Diaz,
Here.
Whitlatch,
Here.
Piliano,
Here.
Aguilar.
Stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Go to item 2, public comment. At this time, members of the public may comment on any items not appearing on the agenda. Under state law, matters presented under this item cannot be discussed or acted upon by the Planning Commission at this time. For items appearing on the agenda, the public will be invited to make comments at the time the item comes up for Planning Commission consideration, so that all interested parties have an opportunity to speak. Any person addressing the Planning Commission may be limited at the discretion of the chair. At this time, please use the microphone and state your name and address for the record. Do we have anybody wishing to make any public comment? Seeing none, we'll move on to the next item. Item 3, approval of the minutes.
I make a motion to approve the minutes.
I second that.
It's been moved in second. Roll call, please.
Gong,
Yes.
Bailey,
Yes.
Elliott,
Yes.
Diaz,
Yes.
Whitlatch,
Yes.
Piliano,
Yes.
Aguilar.
Yes.
October 14 meeting has been approved. Item number 4, partial map public hearing. Action on all partial map in this section of the agenda will be heard in one public hearing unless anyone wishing to discuss any one of these items requests that it would be approved for a separate public hearing. No staff presentation will be given on any items unless requested. In any case, there will be a separate vote on these items. Does anybody wish to recuse themselves? Anybody wish to remove anything from the records for later? Okay. So seeing none, we're gonna go to item A, tentative partial map number PPM 15-030. This is to first of all, let me open the public comment before we move on. Any public comments on any of these items? All right, seeing none, let's go on. Let's go to item A. This is to approve a category exemption consistent with California Environment Quality Act and the state CEQA guideline pursuant to Title 14, California Code Regulation Section 15303, Class 3, pertaining to new construction or conversion of small structures and conditionally approved tentative partial map number PPM 15030.
I'll move that we approve, as stated by our chair, PPM 15-030.
I'll second the motion.
Moved in second. Roll call, please.
Gong,
Yes.
Bailey's,
Yes.
Elliott,
Yes.
Diaz,
Yes.
Whitlatch,
Yes.
Piliano, Aguilar.
Yes.
PPM 15030 has been approved. Let's go to item B, tentative partial map number PPM 15-031. This is to approve a category exemption consistent with the California Environmental Quality Act and the state CEQA guideline pursuant to Title 14 California Code Regulation, Section 15303, Class 3, pertaining to new construction or conversion of small structures and conditionally approved tentative partial map number PPM. I still have the public comment open, so anybody wish to make comments at this time? Seeing none, I'll close the public comment for last two items.
I'll make a motion that we approve the tentative parcel map PPM 15-03 and as stated by our chair.
I second that motion.
Moved in second. Roll call, please.
Gong,
Yes.
Bailey's,
Yes.
Elliott,
Yes.
Diaz,
Yes.
Whitlatch, Juliana,
Yes.
Aguilar.
PPM 15031 has been approved.
Yes.
Oh, you're slow there, Gil. Let's move on to item C. Tentative partial map number PPM 15026. And I'll open the public comment. Anybody wishing to make public comments? Anybody on the board? Seeing none, we'll close the public comment. This is to approve a category exemption consistent with the California Environmental Quality Act and the state CEQA guideline pursuant to Title 14 California Code Regulation, Section 15303, Class 3, pertaining to the new construction or conversion of small structures and conditionally approved tentative partial map number PPM 15026.
I'll move that we approve a categorical exemption that's consistent with CEQA and conditionally approve tentative parcel map PPM 15-026.
I'll second the motion.
Roll call, please.
Gong,
Yes.
Bailey's,
Yes.
Elliott,
Yes.
Diaz,
Yes.
Whitlatch,
Yes.
Juliana,
Yes.
Aguilar.
Yes.
I waited for you this time. PPM 15026 have been approved. Okay,
I
let's
have
move.
a
Yes.
question on the agenda. It says and conditionally approved, but on the summary it doesn't say that. Is that on the summary? It just says and approve.
Did we put any conditions on it?
There are conditions in the resolution, so technically it would be conditionally approved.
Okay, let's, did that kind of answer your question, Gil? Okay, let's move on to item 5, item for discussion and review. Slow down a little bit. This is a minor modification number MMD 15021 to special use permit number PSP 08-108 WC Wood Industry. This is a minor modification number MMD 15-0221 to modify the list of acceptable material allowed to be brought onto the project site for previously approved special use permit number PSP 08-108, which allows green waste recycling facility. The site is located on the southwest quadrant of the interchange at State Route 99 and State Route 198 west of the city of Visalia. Contact is Dave.
Chair,
Yes.
there was no official presentation on this matter. We were just seeking the approval to authorize the planning director to consider the minor modification to modify the list of acceptable materials allowed. But if you do have any questions for staff, we are here to answer them.
But the reason we have to come back to the planning commission is because it's modifying a condition of approval in the existing use permit. What's happened is there's Assembly Bill 1826 that is requiring jurisdictions to recycle and divert more green waste from landfills. So that's why this is allowing them to expand to take that type of material as well to comply with state mandates.
Okay, so let me open the public comment. Anybody wishing to comment on this item 5A? Any questions up here?
You know, yeah, good question. I kind of read the modification conditions here, but still not sure what they're allowed to bring in now that they couldn't before.
I think it's primarily food waste.
That's what I see. Food waste.
Okay. Oh,
Yeah.
single source food waste, is that what this is called? Okay. They couldn't do that before?
No, the applicants are actually here if you have any questions specifically.
Yeah, why not?
Yes.
I'm just kind of curious, so if you don't mind.
And just state your name and address for a record. You can use the mic on your left.
All right.
Kevin Oliver, 7715 Avenue 296, Visalia, 93274. Yeah, currently, special use permit allows us to accept green materials to follow along with AB 1826 is mandatory commercial recycling, where they want to commingle food waste with the green waste, as well as restaurants, grocery stores are going to be mandated to compost all their food waste. So we just need to add food waste and commingled food waste to our permit to be able to accept that material in.
I see.
So I think it says here that you have to clean the materials. I think that means processing and blending within a 48-hour time frame.
That's what the state wants. It's not a real nice material to handle, so we need to get it mixed in to the actual green waste within 48 hours to keep it, to keep rodents and vectors and all that stuff out of it, keep the smell down.
So it won't be a separate compost, it'll be mixed in.
It'll be mixed in with the green waste compost, yes.
Okay.
And what's the digestate? What's that stuff?
Digestate, that's something that could be a couple years coming down the road. There's a couple anaerobic digesters that are permitted now in Tulare County. Their byproduct is digestate, which is, it's based off of food materials, but they take the gas out of it first. Right. Okay. And the digestate's the residual that we want to take and blend in with the green waste compost.
And that could come from dairies too.
That also can, yes.
Right. I got you.
But now that digestate, that all the bacteria's been killed out of that, has it not? Or no?
Let's hope.
It depends on the digester process. There's still a lot of technology coming out with digesters. Some of it will kill any types of bacteria, but you're not sure. Digestate should go through a full composting process before it is applied to anything, just to run it through a full aerobic composting process, which is bringing air into it, where the digester is anaerobic,
right,
where it just keeps it all in a cell.
Right. So this is just the stuff that couldn't break down through the process. Is that
exactly?
Right? Okay.
Exactly. They pull the gas off of it first. Use it as a natural a gas, and then the digestate is the residual solids that comes after that.
Any other questions? Okay. Thank you. Yes.
I'll make a motion that we authorize the planning director to consider minor modification to modify a list of acceptable materials allowed to be brought into the project site for previously approved special use permit PSP 08-108, which was originally approved to amend the existing green waste recycling facility permit PSP 93-059 and allow the establishment of construction and, that's interesting, demolition waste processing facility on 91.94 acres, comprised of 4 parcels and an AE 20 zone.
I'll second.
Okay, before roll call, let me close the public hearing. Go ahead, roll call, please.
Gong,
Yes.
Bailey,
Yes.
Elliott,
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
Milash,
Yes.
Miliano,
Yes.
Aguilar.
Yes.
Okay, we're going to go on to item 6. This is the public hearing portion of it. This is 6A, General Plan Implementation Ordinance Code of Tulare County, Amendment Tulare County. This is amendment to the Ordinance Code of Tulare County for limitation pertaining to diesel fueled commercial motor vehicle engine idling. And David, you're on board.
Good morning, Chairman Gong, members of the Commission, Dave Bryant, Tulare County Resource Management Agency. After the general plan was adopted in 2012, the Sierra Club challenged both the general plan and the environmental document. After extensive negotiations, a settlement agreement was completed, and the material that's presented for your consideration today would provide for an amendment to the ordinance code of Tulare County pertaining to a limitation on diesel fueled commercial vehicle, motor vehicle engine idling requirements. This would add Chapter 4 to Part 3 of the Ordinance Code of Tulare County. In essence, the California Air Resources Board adopted restrictions in regards to commercial motor vehicles with a gross vehicle weight of greater than 10,000 pounds. It's the county's intent to incorporate these requirements and regulations and to raise public awareness of these restrictions. It's not the intent of the county to replace, supersede, or modify these regulations that have been adopted by the California Air Resources Board. In essence, in regards to the basic restrictions that would be associated with this proposal, a driver shall not idle a vehicle's primary diesel engine for greater than 5 minutes, or any type of auxiliary powered system to operate a heater, air conditioner, or other type of equipment for greater than 5 minutes at any location within 100 feet of a restricted area. Restricted areas are currently defined as any real property zoned for individual or multifamily housing. In addition to that, in regards to the use of alternative technologies, drivers that are operating those systems on any vehicle equipped with a 2007 or subsequent model would not be able to use those type of equipment unless they met specific restrictions proposed or as regulated by the California Air Resources Board. There are several exceptions in regards to the requirements. Any type of vehicle that would meet any type of emission standards as per Title 13. In addition to that, there are exceptions relating to other vehicles such as buses that are idling for passengers. In addition to that, any type of idling that would be beyond the control of the driver, such as a traffic control device or events which the driver does not have any control, such as adverse weather conditions, or at the direction or discretion of a peace officer. Also, it would not apply to any type of vehicle that would be undergoing inspection, controlling cargo, typical municipal functions such as a solid waste vehicle, and military vehicles are also exempt from these regulations. In regards to enforcement and penalties, the penalties could be enforced by authorized representatives of the Air Pollution Control District, the county, and or any peace officer. Violations would be subject to a minimum civil penalty of $300. The proposal is consistent with the general plan policy air quality 1.8, which supports developing a greenhouse emissions reduction plan, and this amendment to the ordinance code would satisfy consistency with general plan. The proposed amendment to the ordinance code is regulatory in nature and is intended to provide a local reference to state requirements that have already been adopted. Physical changes to the environment are not being caused and are not likely to be caused by the proposed ordinance code amendment. A general rule exception as per the CEQA guidelines has been prepared. The requested action before your commission today is to hold a public hearing. Recommend that the Board of Supervisors approve a categorical exemption consistent with CEQA, Title 14 California Code Regulations, Section 15061B3, General Rule Exception, and to recommend the Board of Supervisors approve an ordinance adding Chapter 4 to Part 3 of the Ordinance Code of Tulare County pertaining to limitations on diesel fuel commercial motor vehicle engine idling. That concludes my presentation. Be happy to address any questions that you may have.
Maybe I've got a question here. Who are the offenders that the Sierra Club's trying to address here?
In essence, these regulations have already been adopted by the California Air Resources Board, and the concern would be any type of excessive engine idling that may occur in and around residential areas or for extended periods to operate auxiliary systems. So I think the intent is primarily directed towards commercial motor vehicles, tractor-trailer type operations, and again, typical buses or municipal type vehicles or smaller vehicles under 10,000 pounds that would be used commercially would be exempt from these regulations.
Okay. Well, I'm just trying to figure out where the fault or where the harm is being done here, because this doesn't affect people at a truck stop, right? That these truck drivers have to drive, so many hours and they have to rest, and they've got, if they're sleeping, they've got their air conditioner on. If they've got a refrigeration unit, they've got that running.
Yes.
So it doesn't affect them, right?
I believe, yes. It's primarily directed in and around residential and multifamily areas.
Is that a big problem in the county?
Primary
Well, isn't Lowe's right across the highway from a residential area in Tulare? That's what I'm thinking. I don't know.
But it's 100 feet though, right? Say 100?
How far was it?
Yeah, 100 feet. So they got lots.
Oh, yeah, they got some room there.
Oh, they've got, because I'm thinking there's got to be places, that's a huge one, but.
Again, this is simply putting in our local ordinance what is already restrictions that are already state requirements. So we're not adding to anything that's already not law. The Sierra Club wanted just to make a local reference of what is already existing in law. So we're not changing anything here at all. We're simply codifying it in our local county ordinance.
And this was a compromise. I remember reading about this, and they were batting around, putting restrictions on diesel trucks that come through the valley in a really big way. And this was sort of at least not near the residential areas, and it seems like a compromise that the state effected. And on our end of it, we didn't hear all the political haranguing that went on during this. But I really think it's worthwhile, and most of these situations where they're near residential, are people that are parking trucks in those neighborhoods anyway.
Well, they're not supposed to be there anyway.
I know, and they
Right.
are.
Right. Well,
or they'll pull off and they'll be by restaurants or other places where they pulled off the highway.
There are neighborhoods, and I've seen them, where somebody lives in the neighborhood and parks their 40-footer
Well, yeah,
Down the
he's not
street.
generally idling that.
And I've seen them running in the morning when they're getting ready to go somewhere.
Well, yeah, it takes a good 5 minutes to warm those diesel engines up.
I don't think that's the problem, that sort of thing.
Doesn't
Okay.
include any effect on agriculture, right?
No.
Okay, this is a public hearing, so I'm opening the public comments section. We don't want a whole bunch of people rushing to the podium.
Okay, so just limiting it to 3 minutes.
Limited to 3 minutes.
Where's your entourage, Dave?
Anyway, seeing none, we're going to close the public hearing and entertain a motion.
I'll make the motion, we approve and recommend to the Board of Supervisors that they approve a categorical exemption consistent with the California Environmental Quality Act, Title 14 California Code Regulations, Section 15061, Subsection B, Subsection 3, General Rule Exemption, and recommend that the Board of Supervisors approve an amendment to the Ordinance Code of Tulare County 4A, limitations pertaining to the diesel-fueled commercial motor vehicle engine idling, adding Chapter 4 to Part 3 of the Ordinance Code of Tulare County.
I'll second that.
The second roll call, please.
Long,
Yes.
Millies,
Yes.
Elliott,
Yes.
Diaz,
Yes.
Willach,
Yes.
Juliano, Aguilar.
Yes.
Approved to recommend to the Board of Supervisor. Okay, we'll move on to item 6B, General Plan Implementation Ordinance Code of Tulare County Amendment. Dave, I guess you're and then
Yes, thank you. Thank you again, Chairman Gong, members of the commission. This is the second item resulting from the settlement agreement with the Sierra Club and the County of Tulare. Would be an amendment to the ordinance code pertaining to solar energy requirements for residential subdivisions. For your consideration this morning, this would provide solar energy requirements for residential subdivisions, adding Section 701-1470 to Article 1 of Chapter 1 of Part 7 of the Ordinance Code of Tulare County. It's the intent of the county to promote public welfare by ensuring that single families have access to residences using renewable energy resources, such as solar energy, that may assist in the reduction of greenhouse gas emissions. The primary general provisions that are associated with this ordinance code amendment would provide that solar panels be installed on a specific percentage of single-family residences in new residential developments through development that would be proposed through a subdivision requiring county discretionary approval. In essence, the minimum requirement would be to provide a 1.5 kilowatt solar unit per dwelling. This requirement would be imposed as a condition of approval. If a map or tract is built in phases, the requirement would be required for each phase. And the systems or facilities shall comply with any other county regulations and other restrictions as applicable as through the ordinance code.
Panels is that anyway? 1 point. I have no vision.
Yes, there's essentially the typical range of most residential solar systems is 3 to 4 kilowatts. So these panels would be on the lower end of that scale.
I think it's 20 to 30 panels.
The requirements would be imposed according to a sliding scale. For 50 to 150 units, 10% requirement. For 150 to 500 units, there would be a 20% requirement. 500 units or more, 25%. Just as a general note, since 2012, there have been 2 subdivisions that have been approved that were greater than 50 lots. There are some exceptions and alternatives that are associated with this proposal. Subdivision maps with less than 50 units, multiple family dwellings which do not support individual solar systems would be accepted. Affordable housing would be accepted. And an applicant, as an alternative, may construct a solar energy facility as opposed to installing individual units on rooftops. The Planning Commission or Board of Supervisors would be the final decision-making body and also may exempt development from this section as determined as appropriate if it's infeasible with CEQA. In regards to general plan consistency, there are several general plan policies that would support this proposal. Land use element policy 7.15, supporting energy conservation. Environmental resources and management element policy 4.1, energy conservation and efficiency, and environmental resources management element policy 4.6, supporting renewable energy. In regards to the environmental document, the proposed amendment is intended to improve administrative procedures. It's not proposed that there would be any physical changes to the environment by the proposed ordinance code amendment, and as a result, a general rule exception under section 15061B3 of the state CEQA guidelines is recommended. The requested action before your commission today is to hold a public hearing, recommend that the Board of Supervisors approve a categorical exemption consistent with CEQA, Title 14, California Code of Regulations, Section 15061B3, General Rule Exception, and to recommend to the Board to approve an ordinance adding Section 7-01-1470 to Article 1 of Part 7 of the Ordinance Code of Tulare County pertaining to solar energy requirements for residential subdivisions. That concludes my presentation. Happy to address any questions that you may have.
Just a question on operating this thing. This is obviously going to add $20,000 or $30,000 to each one of those units. Is that going to be the burden going to be on the person that buys that unit, or is it going to be spread on over the entire development?
It would be dependent on the applicant, but in my research, you are correct. The average cost of a 1.5 kilowatt system would be in the $12,000 to $20,000 range. The approximate payback period would be 6 to 10 years, depending on the benefit that the resident would receive. But yes, it would typically add on to the cost of the residential unit.
And so the individual would have the choice of having it on their house, or the developer decides which houses it goes on, or how does that work?
The developer would be responsible for meeting the minimum requirement in regards to the percentage based on the number of units. How that would be spread out, I don't know in regards to the actual construction, but the buyer of the unit that has the solar unit would be responsible to pay whatever cost would be associated with that construction.
this, if the power companies have reached their renewable limit or requirements, are they going to be mandated to take this renewable power on? Or can they say, hey, I've fulfilled my requirements for,
This would be net metering. This wouldn't really be the a power purchase agreement to the utility company. So this would still be ongoing. There's some subsidies and rebates and things that have been eliminated over time and will probably continue to be so as the cost has come down. But that wouldn't, for this type of residential development, it simply offsets their own use, their own meter.
so when you say, so net metering means when they're not buying it back, they'll zero out your bill, and anything extra that you send them, they keep and say thank you, right?
I don't believe that's, I'm not certain, but I don't believe that, I believe that carries over for.
But you get the write-off.
Get the write-off
on
the next.
on the energy cost.
They're trying to change it right now. They haven't done it yet.
Okay.
Yeah,
Because I think what's going to happen, because I do some of the solar stuff, they're going to, when they get to a certain level of requirements, they're going to stop this net metering where they're buying it back and running your meter backwards and then paying you for that. They'll zero you out. You might not owe anything, but anything above what you use that you send to them, they just keep it.
Well, there's technology right now, and they're looking at if the utility company could survive with this, but these small residential areas will be able to have communal systems where they can sell it to other users. And so there's it's all on the drawing board right now, but I think it makes sense to build the solar in there to be sustainable for these. I mean, I know a guy from Three Rivers has been building them along the highway for years.
Right.
And, it kind of ebbs and flows. For a few years, it's a really good situation, and it's great for the consumer, and, there's rebates and returns. And we definitely have to address this more in the future. And I think, the state's kind of dragging their feet on this, but I think that's where we're going, and it'll probably come down from federal level to mandate it to the states, and then the states are going to mandate this kind of building all over, not just California. It's just that California, of course, like everything, we're trying to teach the rest of the country how to do it, because we probably have more solar now than any other state. So. We've got the sun too, which helps.
Well, but there's also a problem, and I don't know where all this comes in, and I know we are just trying to catch up, our ordinances with what's being mandated.
Right.
But right now, Southern California Edison, and I know because I'm going through it right now, they cannot tell me how much I'm producing, and they will not tell me.
They can't even handle it all right now.
They will not tell me how much I'm producing and how much I'm getting rebate for, and they don't even, now, PG&E, absolutely yes. Yeah. They're on. I know exactly where I'm at, but not with Edison at all. So not only is it out Tulare County's ordinances that need to catch up, but they need to catch up
with the utilities.
Right. Because if I were these people and I paid $30,000 for a unit on top of my house, and they can't even tell me why my bill is up or down or around, or, I got a bill 9 months later for $4,500. And they couldn't tell me why. Yeah. They tried to tell me.
They can't tell you if you don't have solar.
No, they don't. That's true.
It's crazy right now.
So I'm just saying there's some catch up with the utilities also. I think it's a great idea that we're doing this, but I'm not the one that's building a home for, what's it, 200, maybe 200,000 to 150,000, and you're going to pay 30 of that for a solar system.
Well, the price of solar
that might
systems.
not even be applicable.
Well, builders are playing a game now where you either buy it or you can lease it, and there's a whole bunch of rat holes you can go down there. So you you lease the system effectively.
So and then they're accepting.
But at the end of the day,
they're also getting the write-off for it.
Right. When you sell the house, it gets amortized into the price of the cost of the house. But you don't get the benefits that the government offers in terms of write-offs either.
Right.
the builder gets those.
That could be huge for the
There's
builder.
different variations.
Well, we're still looking at this, with a mindset that we have a lot of inventory now of existing homes, and to encourage these tracks and building, I don't think that's coming in the next year or two, so let's hopefully we can catch up with these solar requirements, and it's a good thing when it works, and we also need the price of the systems to come down, which that's very possible if we're going to continue to use panels made in where. So, it's the direction we have to go, and we got to pass the costs along somewhere. We're not even, like most counties, we're not even requiring developer fees. And here we are, saying, okay, well, the cost of the home, and who's putting tracks in front of us right now to build homes? I don't really think anybody is, and at least not large scale. And I think when they do, and everything, all the ducks are in a row, I think the solar will work, and I think it'll pencil out.
And on top of that, this is just for county subdivisions, right? Because the
Right.
cities
Yes.
who build most of the homes.
That's right.
This is just the county. Just a couple observation points. As Dave indicated, the minimum size requirement of the ordinance is fairly small compared to what our installations normally are. So therefore, as far as the problem is, you're producing way more, these are fairly small projects, so they probably won't eliminate an electrical bill. They'll reduce it substantially, so that no net metering type of thing might not be an issue with this scale.
Right.
Secondly, the cost of the equipment, there might be economies of scale if they're putting in new construction at the point of new construction rather than going on an existing roof, and doing multiple units at one time, so there's an economy of scale for the construction there. And it will just be a business decision by the developer how to pass along those costs. So just like you pay for a premium lot, you probably pay for a premium for having solar on your project. So they'll use it as a marketing technique. Some people will be going in there wanting to buy a solar house, others may not. So it would be up to them. And just as a last word is that this is part of our general plan settlement implementation agreement with the Sierra Club. So that's why we're bringing this forward for the consideration, but it's already been negotiated by all parties as to move forward on this. So
We have to do it. Are the cities also requiring this?
Well, I believe there are many cities and jurisdictions that do have similar type of requirements, maybe even higher levels. I'm not familiar with specifics, but I just generally know that that's the trend. Yes.
Okay, again, this is a public hearing, so I'm going to open the public hearing. Not seeing anybody, I'm going to close the public hearing. So I'm ready to entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve a recommendation to the Board of Supervisors that they approve a categorical exemption consistent with the California Environmental Quality Act, Title 14, California Code Regulations, Section 15061, Subsection B, Subsection 3, General Rule Exemption, and recommend that the Board of Supervisors approve an amendment to the Ordinance Code of Tulare County for A, solar energy requirements for residential subdivisions, adding Section 7-01-1470 to Article 1 of the chapter of Part 7 of the Ordinance Code of Tulare County.
I'll second.
Moved in second. Roll call, please.
Gong,
Yes.
Bailey,
Yes.
Elliott,
Yes.
Diaz,
Yes.
Whitlatch,
Yes.
Piliano,
Yes.
Aguilar.
Motion has been passed to recommend to the Board of Supervisors the solar energy requirements.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. Okay, let's move on to item 7, Director's Report.
Well, as you know, we have a special meeting next week on the 3rd in the afternoon, a unique time, 1:30.
30.
So it's going to be a busy day for the RMA because we have board of supervisors in the morning with a number of projects going there as well as the afternoon. We'll be bringing the community plans for Terabella and Ducor, as well as the housing element. and Self-Help Enterprises vesting tentative map for the Goshen Village East. So there's going to be a number of important projects on next week's agenda. With that, that's pretty much how my life has been going, trying to get these things prepared and ready to go for your consideration. I'll pass it on to, well, I know there's a lot of interest going on with flood control and preparation for that, especially now it's starting to drizzle outside again. I'll let Ben speak to that.
Yes, at yesterday's board meeting, we made a presentation to the Board of Supervisors regarding a flood control action plan that we put together over the last month or two in the preparation of the rainy season, and also with predictions for above average rainfall this coming winter. And in the next couple of weeks, we'll also be conducting some training with our staff as far as kind of like mocking up what to do when the floods come, so just so that we're as prepared as we can be for this upcoming season. So
Just grab all that water you can.
yeah.
I think it was interesting that I was told coming in that the town of Alpa that has sunk 10 feet. That's a long ways. I mean, that we've overdrafted the water that much. Is that correct, Aaron?
Well, basically, yes, the overdraft has gone to sinking. Quite a few communities.
Too bad they don't know. I have a question, but it's not on that, so I'll wait till the planning commission discusses.
Okay, let's move on to the next item. And your question, please.
Yes. I've been told that there is a ordinance, and it must not be new, but all this development of almond, pistachio, and especially walnut trees, that there is a setback off the roads required for these trees. Well, obviously, if you drive around, everybody has planted those trees right up as far as they have been able to. My husband was required the other day to take a row out of trees. So do you know anything about that? Is it a new ordinance? And if it's new, or it must be an old ordinance, but also because now that I've been told about it, and he was told that they are driving around and looking and checking to see where these trees are. But the big thing is the walnut trees, because they get so big and bushy. There's Lover's Lane and 148. There's an intersection there. You can't see anything. I mean, and they're older trees. Boy, it's dangerous. I mean, it's like, I keep thinking, okay, if it's foggy, it's really going to be bad. But, so, do you know anything about it? Have you guys?
Yeah, I believe it's an existing ordinance, and the setback requirement, I believe, is 10 feet from the right-of-way or half the distance of the row spacing on the trees. And so what our encroachment folks have been looking for is in instances where the trees are encroaching on the roadway, maybe it's a safety issue.
Should be.
We've had incidents in the past where trees have blocked our signs and people get in accidents.
Oh, so
And the
probably
county's-
mainly the signs is where it's been.
Discuss the line of sight as far as.
Yeah, so if you come up to, for example, if you come up to a stop sign and you have to have enough distance to look left and right for, crossing traffic, and sometimes that's another, in addition to obstructing our signs, if you don't have enough sight distance to see if there's
What
enough.
that line of sight is?
I think it depends on the design speed.
Right.
It's a case-by-case basis.
Oh.
But we like to enforce that setback just for safety reasons.
And why, interesting, we develop a lot of these trees, and we were kind of blindsided by it. You don't get a permit to develop a field of trees, so you don't know about that. And it's something that maybe through the Ag Commissioner or Farm Bureau should be made more aware of that. Because when you have to take out a line of trees, that's a lot of money and upset people, very upset people. So just, you know. It was interesting because if you know my husband, he's pretty easy. You know, he went, oh, okay, yeah. I can't see when I go around a corner either, so, you know. But the people he is putting these trees in for, that it's out of their pockets, they're very upset about it.
So was it new trees going in? So
It's always new trees going
That's
in.
what they're trying, I think that's what they're trying to do is.
Stop that.
Stop the new trees and like the old ones that have been
Makes
there
sense.
forever.
Yeah.
We just don't want to have it continue.
Yeah, and I don't know how to make them aware of that.
Well, we can use it through APAC, we can talk about it there, Farm Bureau, Ag Commission. You know, right now Ed Needham, you know, is with the nurseries.
Right.
And they certainly should
Yeah.
be aware of the
They should.
standard requirements.
Yeah, the
along
reps.
streets,
Yeah, the reps should be. Yeah.
Yeah, if that's, if the end of that line is just the end of your drip line, that's one thing, but if your feeder line goes down that first row, that could be a disaster.
Oh, yeah.
You have to take that whole pipeline out, although most of them, they go down the middle and then branch off to the ends.
Well, I don't know that it would apply to the pipeline, though, because he definitely was told it was the line of sight issue.
I see.
You know, and it is. I mean, we start driving around, you look, and they're just little skinny trees right now, so there's no problem. But when those trees get bigger, there's going to be huge problems on those intersections because everyone has planted right to their line, you know,
Right.
because X amount of trees on a piece of property, it makes that much more money. So it's just something kind of interested in.
Any more items for future agenda or for discussion?
All I know is, as a semi-retired senior citizen, I'm voting for the party that gives the free stuff away. So
Yes.
Well, that's,
you guys are paying
Conference?
I like it.
but just remember, they promise to give it away, but then maybe you don't get it after they're elected.
Well, I'm so old, I forget that kind of stuff anyway, so. Anybody wants to give me a birthday present on Monday? It's my birthday, 71, so.
John, did you want to give an update on our?
Well, I do, but I wanted to mention about our upcoming meeting that I think it's really important that, because it's a countywide issue with the housing, that it's noticed publicly in the Three Rivers area. And I know we said this before, so I'm not going to belabor the point, but the people that, when you put a notice for a meeting like that in the Visalia Times Delta, they are not seeing it. And the people in Three Rivers need to be noticed, especially on these countywide issues, because they're the ones that are going to comment and have some thoughtful input on the subject. And if you ignore them, that's, you know, because of some political squabble in the past with Valley Voice and Alan Nishida, it's not correct. So I just want to go on the record and say that. This week in Three Rivers, on a happier note, well, besides that we have 150 to 200 bears in town right now, if you want to see bears, come to Three Rivers. We have National Geographic there, BBC, the AP is coming out with a major story. The bears have come down from the mountains, and they're kind of sitting around town eating acorns.
What's the best time of day?
Anytime. Yesterday, I was in the office at 2:30, and there's a bear jam in the middle of the road by Riverview, and there was a bear. He must have been up 150 feet in the tree. Everybody thought he was going to shake the tree and fall down, but he was just getting acorns and working his way down the tree, because a lot of the low ones are already gone. There's so many bear reports. A lady called me yesterday from Cherokee Oaks in the office and said, "You got to come over here. There's a bear in our tree. He's so big, I don't think he can get down." And, you know, just every day, it's just, there's a sad note, too, because a lot of the bears are being shot and killed, and they're not being reported to Fish and Wildlife, and this is a huge problem right now because they're not following the law. A rancher, and some of these guys, they said, well, they're harassing our livestock, and so they can shoot a bear if it's harassing livestock, but they have to report it to Fish and Game. None of them are doing that. They use what Fish and Wildlife call the 3S policy: shoot, shovel, and shut up. And that's being done right now, and it's rather tragic, but they're only here for this year. This is my father-in-law's lived there 91 years. He's never seen this. So this is really unusual. And you don't have to go to the park and see bears because they're all in Three Rivers. And but anyway, that's something we're dealing with up there, and we're trying to get some kind of permanent policy. I have a few ideas for our community plan on how we're going to deal with this, because trash is an element of this. There's no doubt. But it's time to come up and visit this weekend if you want to see bears. Seriously, it looks like our front page, and the paper's out in the lobby, we have one place behind Village Market where they sit by the river. And there's, as many as 12 and 14 bears sitting there at once. Of all sizes, all colors. We've seen bears this year with white chests. I've never seen a bear like that.
Are they saying it has something to do with the acorns are so big that they're coming down to get the acorns?
They ate everything in the park at
Yes.
the higher elevation. Now they're along the river because the trees that are watered, the acorns are huge.
Yeah, they are huge.
There's no berry crop up there. There's nothing for them to eat up there. All the bugs are dead. The rough fire burned 150,000 acres. All those animals came down the drainage. Yeah. And then the park has always underestimated how many bears they actually have. And they said they had 150 to 200 bears in the park. Well, if that's true, we have every one of them in Three Rivers. Plus a few other. Yeah, plus a few.
Vacationing in Three Rivers.
Now, I have a bear that is in my pasture. That we rent our pasture to Earl McKee and his horses, and the horses are really cool. They establish the areas where the bears can't go. So the bears sit under trees and they just eat and kind of lounge around. Well, on trash night, we have those, individual green cans, and we're getting the whole town to basically lock up the trash. And so I have a clip on mine, but if a bear really wanted to tear that lid off, they could. So the last 2 weeks, I go out at 4:30 in the morning before the truck comes, a few minutes, so I can unclip the trash for the driver. Well, the last 2 weeks, my can, and there was a picture in the paper the last week, that one's out there too, my can is upside down. And he doesn't, he could easily tear that can apart, but there's like little bear paws all around it, and all he's telling me is, good job, John. We're going to leave your trash alone.
I think they're saying you better hurry up and open this can for me, or I'm.
Well, there's plenty of others in the neighborhood they can get, and the thing is these bears are so smart. I can't tell you how smart they are. They can get into anything they want. They can break into a car if they want. Yeah. The ones that come in, they become aggressive, and the only time they've been aggressive is if people try to get right in their face between them and the food. But if you keep your distance, it's a really amazing thing right now. Okay, now I'd like to switch the subject to June Lake.
Brandon Barrett.
Yeah, I'd like to switch the subject now, because we had this conference in June Lake, and I talked to them about their bears. They've only seen one bear this year, so
it's down. They're down.
Yeah, they're way down. June Lake's up there, of course. We hit the weather perfect at June Lake. All the trees were in their golden fall splendor. And it was kind of like, I just can't tell you how everything lined up for this conference. I'd certainly like the other guys to comment on this too, but as an executive of the board, I've got some extra things to do with that organization. We're already planning 2016. In 2016, we're hoping that it'll be Mariposa, but we still have not approved that. We're going to do that at a board meeting conference call in early December. One thing we did approve, and I'm not sure if he understood this correctly, but Ed Diaz is our vice president for next year.
I didn't understand it.
Okay. All right. Well, the vice president is the best of all worlds on our board, because he doesn't really do much, but he has a vote in the policy of the organization, and then he takes a look and sees whether he wants to do the ascendancy to the president, which is 2 years off. We have a president-elect and president. I was president in 2010. That means Ed could be president in, actually in 2018 is what his, and that means we could bring the conference to Tulare County in that year in 2018.
Government check.
Yeah, and now every year, in the year 2010, when I put on my conference, I went to Monterey because of a number of political reasons in the organization. And I really wanted to have it in Tulare County, but we had, the biggest turnout ever for that conference from Tulare County. So in those days, we were struggling. We had 6,000 or 8,000 in the treasury, and we were, all pinching our pennies, just hoping we could hang on because the counties were not paying their dues statewide. Now they are. We're coming into this year. We have about 29,000 after we pay all the expenses of the conference. So my point there is the counties are now supporting again. In 2017, we're going to be in Riverside, and we're going to bring the South back into this organization. They haven't really participated in the last few years. But this conference that we had in June Lake, we had, I guess, about 28 maybe commissioners, and then guests. We were over 50 with planners, and we had a planning director from Riverside County, and we were, 50, 60 at the peak of the conference. But all of it was done, and it was just top shelf, the presentations. There were things from the presentations that really stood out. And what's really cool is all the presentations in the Friday session will now be on our website with video. The video presentation will be there, so you don't miss it if you don't go. But one of the things that stood out when the Mono County planners were giving their presentations is number one thing, and this is really hits home to me and Three Rivers, is that they, in their general plan, require a transient tax on Airbnb and VRBO. I've already passed this along to Dave, and we're taking a look at this, doing this in Tulare County. And this will raise an incredible amount of tax dollars that we are not getting right now. And I'll tell you, 3 years ago, we had five or six VRBO properties in Three Rivers. We now have 60. And this is going to be the rage all over the county. There'll be other places. I mean, somebody might want to stay in Visalia too, but most of them will be in Three Rivers. So we need to jump on this right now as a county and get this share, because this money needs to be invested back into tourism. We've gone over this we pay over $1 million in Three Rivers. It's collected in transient tax every year. It goes to other areas of the county. Not one penny of it comes back to Three Rivers. So what I'd like to see down the road is some of this VRBO money and Airbnb money be invested in Three Rivers so we can improve some of the things for tourism there. It's really important because it's so much the future of our county. I'm not going to belabor that point, but if you don't pay your tax, and of course this takes an inspector from the county to come out and make sure you meet certain standards, but if you don't pay your tax in Mono County, you get fined $1,000 for every night, and that's in their general plan. So we need to take a look at this. We don't maybe have to do it to that extreme, but we need to collect that tax. And I think most of these people that own the properties will gladly pass along whatever percentage we agree on. They'll just pass it on to the consumer. I can't tell you how popular it is. There's people I know that say, I ask them, well, you're going to be home this weekend? Oh, no, I have an Airbnb, so I'm going to the coast, and people are in my house. And that's what it is. Some people bring them in while they're there. It's the same thing. But this temporary rentals is so much better than having a rental property. Now, for the town of Three Rivers, it's not so much better because most of these are the owners don't occupy the buildings. So our schools declining, our community, when people show up at things, there's less people. We have less population year-round now because of this. So the least we can do is tax this and jump on this and improve the county in different places. There was a myriad of things like this that came out in this meeting, from fire to everything. And what's really astonishing, here's a county with, I don't know, maybe 60,000 people. Half of them live in Mammoth, and then the other half live in June Lake and these other communities. And yet they're doing they have so much more advanced ways of the way they're dealing with the land use and all the processes. They could really teach us a thing or two. And there were so many highlights on the tour. Mono Lake, the geothermal plant we went to, the Aquatic Research Center, the University of California is there, and we just had, I was blown away. I don't know about the rest of the guys, but in this little town of June Lake, 600 people that are full-time residents, you walk around, there's really thriving tourist businesses. They have 2 seasons. The warm season in the summer, they're all leaving this past weekend. They were all there to fish, and now all the skiers come if they get snow. So they're just, it's a thriving place. And then they have Mammoth and all that investment from Los Angeles and all that going on there, which they've been able to kind of get on top of and help improve the lot for the county, countywide. But anyway, this is why we go to these conferences. I've been to 10 straight now with this organization, and I tell you, I come back and I learn so much. And I mean, we had a session on investing and setting up these GoFundMe sites for nonprofit county projects. Now, why we're not doing that, I'm not quite sure, but we need these people to teach us these lessons. And these 10 conferences, they're just getting nothing but better and nothing more useful. And there's things there, like these two things I just mentioned. We can take these things to the bank and improve our situation right now. So those are things that stuck out to me and, and made me, number one, made me feel glad that I'm involved with the board of this organization, and also that I'm from Tulare County and we have a lot of potential to do this stuff. So Ed, did anything strike you?
All the stuff that you said. One thing that Ben might appreciate is the little community of Bridgeport had an issue with because they're right, 395 goes right through the middle of the town there over there, and they had a situation where the traffic was moving pretty fast through there because they had too many lanes, so they just narrowed it down and people couldn't use it as a passing lane. But then that means they had extra area on the side of the road, so they made angle parking on the side and also a bike lane, so they took up that one lane that they reduced. But Caltrans says you can't do angle parking and back out into the middle of 395. It's just not going to happen. He says, but we'll let you do back in angle parking.
It was awesome.
It was. And so they pull up, and it still slows traffic, but it's not as dangerous as trying to back out into the middle of traffic because they see you slowing down anyway. And then you just back right up into the angle parking, and then when you take off, you look and you get right into the stream, and it worked pretty slick. I had never seen that, but that was a good remedy for the deal. And they were real appreciative because Caltrans cooperated. Normally, you can't get Caltrans to do anything, but
they had a really beautiful courthouse in Bridgeport, if you've ever seen it. Kind of reminds you of the one that used to be in downtown Visalia. And they kept their courthouse, and they still use it. And it's a shame. I mean, we can't go back, but we got to make sure we don't do that again. And it was just the people are really engaged there. We had the presentations on endangered species, and it wasn't these sage grouse were a pain in the butt to everybody. They were a beautiful asset for people to enjoy, and they still, provide hunting tags for a percentage of them, and they just found a way to make it all work. And I think we can learn a lot of lessons from that. And I'm sorry Bill wasn't feeling good because he missed some of the tour, and oh my God, it was just
age thing.
Awesome.
Partied too much the night before.
But anyway,
I did take
the
off
session.
I did take off my own. We drove some of it in the afternoon.
It was just awesome.
Place.
The University Research Center there is really good too because it brings scholars and people there from all over the world, and they go in these businesses and stay in these places, and what they did out there is they took a pristine stream, and they built other situations where they could do all these research studies in similar conditions in streams, and it's just really teaching us how to how to preserve our watersheds and aquatic environments. And it's just, one thing led to the next. The geothermal was really interesting because they drill pipes down 1,100 feet and they're sitting right above the magma. Well, if you think about that magma, someday that's going to come up anyway, but they're taking that steam and they're making viable, sustainable energy out of that steam. And I don't understand exactly all how it works, but it's something really novel for that area, and there's a lot of things happening there. The digital 395. This is something we need to do in our foothill areas at Tulare County. They have better broadband there than we do in our county, in these rural communities, because they went out and got the grants and they put the hard line in, and they buried all the lines, all the utilities that's going in all these communities now. About, I guess they said, I don't remember exactly, but it's 80 or 90% of it's all buried. And they said it doesn't make sense not to bury it, especially if you're putting in a road, because if you're putting that road in, you come in the future, you want to extend the road, the utilities are already in. You don't have to take them out and bury them then. So there just a lot of things like that that just really made sense. And I wish we could add a couple of you planners there, but like I said, you can look at some of the video presentations if you're interested. But anyway, this is a great organization. It took us a few years. We kind of had to purge the dead wood that was sitting on the board, and they had kind of retired, and you know, some of them are no longer planning commissioners. And this is what we're finding too that's really good about Tulare County. The other counties, if the supervisor changes, so does the planning commissioner. Now, there's really nothing wrong with that, but then you have to reinvent the learning curve to teach those people how to be planning commissioners. We had a lot of them there this year. It was their first year ever a planning commissioner. And I know we have sessions to train ours, but I don't see these other counties being able to do that. So we're going to incorporate more of that in our organization, because these people are wet behind the ears and don't have a clue on what they're supposed to be doing as a planning commissioner. We have a big advantage here because Bill's not dead wood. He's very experienced, and
That's good to hear.
yeah, he contributes a lot, and he has a lot of experience. I mean, we don't all need to agree on everything, but the thing is with this board right here, we have over probably 100 years of experience here. I don't think there's any other planning commission in California that can say that. So we can be proud of that, and we need to share some of that with these other organizations too. So if we do 2018, a big part of that can be training planning commissioners. And,
You know, the other thing, John, that you didn't mention is that this is 3 counties, a total of about 26,000 people.
Right.
And all 3 counties are connected. They get along.
Right.
They benefit one another. Mono Lake is the only incorporated, Mammoth is the only
right, the only incorporated city.
And these people get along, and because they get along, they get a lot done.
Well, these counties too, they're collaborating on a regional level for their planning, you know, and it's I mean, we can't even get our zoning straightened out in Three Rivers, you know. Everybody wants this, everyone wants
doesn't
that.
even have a zoning ordinance. They run all their land use through their general plan.
Yeah, they have no zoning in their general plan, which you can do that if you can get everybody on the same page. One of the things that surprised me too, they do not want the wind mills, you know, and the energy and that wind energy. It says it's unsightly. We don't want it.
They didn't want solar, but they compromised and wanted solar, but no wind.
Yeah, they don't want the wind, and they got great wind out there. In fact, it's almost too windy at times. But, and then,
Our club guys live there.
They speak a lot.
you know, the bike lanes and the public transportation, even to these little tiny areas, they have it. We do not have that in this county because, you know, we're kind of, our planning is not in this regional broad-based perspective. So anyway, it was really stimulating, and I had to end up staying extra day Sunday, you know, to attend this board meeting. The board meeting took 4.5 hours, and there was only 4 people there. You know, so it was a workshop, you know. But I have to commend Tulare County because we've always supported this for our members, and now we are the leaders of the whole state as planning commissioners. And it's pretty incredible. So it was a good meeting, and Mel, you shouldn't have begged out. And
Well, you have to have it at a lower elevation. So
yeah,
I understand.
there was a couple people that were having a hard time getting used to
My
that.
heart doesn't put up with that.
Well, the first night we got there Friday, after the sessions, which we really needed a break, it was so intense that you were just bombarded with all this stuff. They took us up this chairlift, and our legs hung out there. It was about 42 degrees. We go up to the top, and we had the whole ski lodge to ourselves, and a nice spread of hors d'oeuvres and open bar, and got to know some. We made sure there wasn't more than 3 from the same county in any table, and it was just really cool interacting with the other planning commissioners.
Did you have to ride the chairlift down?
We had to ride the chairlift down, but you know,
In the dark.
It was in the dark, and it was warmer going down than it was going up.
Did your wife do it
Oh, yeah.
in her high heels?
No, no, no.
Oh.
This
Didn't
wasn't,
want bills,
this was pants in a boot thing.
Oh, this is.
But what a view of the landscape
Oh, I
and the
bet.
countryside from the chairlift. Now, if you didn't want to go on the chairlift, they had a car sitting there and they'd take you up the road. But I think everybody went on the chairlift. It was such a novel thrill to do that. And, you know, all along the mountain is just these aspens and, you know, exploding. And it was just, I mean, they really put on a show for us. And it was, I don't know, I mean, we were all pretty much in the village here and it was comfortable. They had a lot of it under construction, but
It was
I thought,
I'd call it rustic.
yeah, it was rustic. I know we had one member that asked, you know, what's the best place in town? And they really don't have a best place because any place where there's skiers, they kind of, you know, it's a little worn, but everything was clean and updated and all taken care of. And they had, fortunately, around the corner, they had the June Lake Brewery. That helped. So, but it was
Drink
it was
enough beer,
awesome.
You didn't care.
Yeah, it was just awesome, and the people were friendly and very accommodating, and just you know, the scenery, everything. It was just wonderful. So it was 5.5 hours for me to get there, and I think, see if you know anybody else that would drive across the top of Yosemite at midnight, because that's how I got there. But coming back Monday, I was able to actually see Yosemite. And it was really, I mean, it's so beautiful. This is the last weekend that Glacier Point Road's open and all that. And, oh my God. I mean, the bottom line is these people, and we all know this, you know, you hear this stuff, you go to the ag show and there's all these recruiters all moved to Texas, moved to South Dakota, all this. But California right here is the greatest place anywhere. It just takes a little bit of leadership to take it in the right direction. So I'll tell you, those planning commissioners, they do a lot to do that.
I appreciate, that sounds like a great trip, great ideas. I just like to say on a couple fronts on the broadband access that we're putting in a lot of undergrounding throughout the county and our transportation as far as our transit. Ben is in the lead of that, and we're working with TCAG and making a lot of expansion. So what I think what we should do over the coming months is maybe bring some presentations to the commission to show what the county is doing on a number of these fronts to make sure that everybody's well informed.
Yeah.
For that.
You know, I found it rather interesting. We had one of the planning commissioners from Alpine County and talk about doing your business or running the county business. There's 1,125 people in the entire county.
Right.
He's running for supervisor too, by the way, and he told me he needs to get like 30 or 40 votes.
Yeah. Oh, it's incredible.
He could
And you
buy
go,
those.
yeah. When you go out stumping for the elections, you go to every single voter and talk to them.
Yeah, well, he was a supervisor before, and he got beat. That guy got defeated one time, so now he's coming back for another shot. It's phenomenal, really. I mean, we're with Riverside too, and they got the biggest of all the problems, you know. And so it's from the biggest to the very smallest, and we're sort of in the middle, and you know, we can share a lot of things we know too. It's really cool. It's a great organization. That was the 85th. So we're looking at the 86th for next year.
Okay, let's move on to item 9. So the next meeting is November 3rd. It's at 1:30, so you guys can sleep in late.
Oh, no, we're at the
No, they're
board
at the board.
at
We got to go to the suits.
That's Tuesday.
Oh, that's too
They're
bad.
gonna be right here.
This is a Tuesday. Yes, it's a Tuesday. So,
Tuesday.
so you can still sleep in late. But
The third to Tuesday. It's at 1:30.
I would say
Right here?
3 hours probably should be.
Just send me an email because I forget.
the housing
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, that's true.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
What did you
Yeah,
say?
probably
I
a little
said
bit
did.
longer. Okay.
Because they're all.
Oh, you weren't at that meeting. We
Do we run
had a
after
special
5?
meeting next week,
Will we?
November 3rd.
We could. If
I
they
would like to
notice
say
3
we'll
rivers,
wait
we
till
might.
Until we get them all on.
Get them done, and I don't think
About
it'll
that
go
coming
past
up.
5.
Did we talk about it previously?
Depend on how many of John's people come.
Yeah.
They're having it on Tuesday?
It's just this one time because we had to get
They'll
the
submit
the
written
housing.
comments.
What are you talking about?
You're misunderstanding me.
Yeah.
And I'm saying, why are we having it on Tuesday?
It's the only day we could do it.
Because we had that Veterans Day or what was that? What a holiday we had.
No.
He's explaining why we're having it on Tuesday.
you know, it's the only time we get in before the,
Okay.
we had.
Mr.
didn't
Gong,
hear.
can you adjourn, please?